Good morning. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today, and a very special thanks to our distinguished guest and keynote speaker, Governor Andrew Cuomo. This is an auspicious day for the Simons Foundation, celebrating the inauguration of the Flatiron Institute, our own in-house research center. The Flatiron Institute's mission is to advance scientific research through computational methods. To start the day, I'd like to talk a little bit about math and its applications. In preparing for this, I tried to remember the first time I realized that math was a tool that could help me. In the first grade, my teacher told us to start writing the numbers and keep going as far as we could. I guess she wanted to keep us busy. When we were told to stop, the girl next to me was well over 1,000. I don't even think I knew that number then. I was so impressed that the numbers kept going. And over the years, that idea evolved as I learned about infinity and then later orders of infinity. I didn't really think of counting things as using math as a tool until it came to counting money. It was clear you needed to know arithmetic to deal with money. And it's no surprise that some of our earliest written records, clay tablets, are all about accounting, records of commerce and wealth. Since those early days of written history, mathematics has continued to develop and to be applied to science in a myriad of ways. It's given us a fundamental understanding of the world and our universe. Some important examples are gravity, electromagnetism, and more recently, genetics and neuroscience. Somehow, the pursuit of mathematical ideas has led to equations that allow us to test our theories of the physical world through experiment. Mathematics has been unreasonably effective in the natural sciences, to paraphrase a famous quote by the physicist Eugene Wigner. I'd like to leave you with the idea that mathematics is an ongoing, vibrant, creative endeavor, and that its applications continue to increase our understanding and perception of the world around us. It is our hope that through advances in computational science, the Flatiron Institute will continue to demonstrate the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce my very favorite mathematician of all time, Jim Simons.
Well, she's my favorite economist, actually. And my favorite other things, too. So a little background. Flatiron originated in 2012 when we assembled a large group of distinguished scientists to help chart our future. And a number of good ideas for grant making arose. But one idea was different. A woman named Ingrid Dubischies, an applied mathematician, suggested we create an institute for computational science, given the enormous data sets now being generated in all fields. Now, this touched a chord in me because I'd made a pretty good living from analyzing financial data. So, well, why not scientific data? Ingrid envisioned the institute as being set up on some university campus, I think hopefully her own, but I thought, why not do it inside our own walls? That would be fun. And Marilyn agreed, and we were on the case. Now, my experience in building an organization is to find great leadership and let them carry the ball. And the first person I approached was Leslie Greengard, standing right there. Now, Leslie was the former head of the Quran Institute at NYU. He has an MD in medicine and a PhD in computer science. He's a member of the National Academy of Science and the National Academy of Engineering, and he's a great expert in creating fast algorithms. He was perfect. He was the perfect choice to start this thing off. He accepted with enthusiasm. He's giving us 2/3 of his time, the remaining 1/3 at NYU. His focus was going to be computational biology. He quickly recruited some terrific group leaders whose teams were soon producing some terrific work. So terrific, in fact, that after a few years we decided to substantially generalize the whole idea and branch out to other fields. To do this, we needed an entire building, and you are standing in it. We decided to make the next unit computational astrophysics, and we also decided that the best possible person to head it would be David Spergel at Princeton. There's David. In addition to having garnered a trove of prizes and honors, most recently the NASA Exceptional Public Service Medal, he was reputed to have the energy of at least 2 people, and I now think that was an understatement. After due consideration, he decided to come, also giving Flatiron 2/3 of his time and 1/3 remaining at Princeton. David has just completed his first year, during which there's been a blizzard of hiring, seminars, and conferences. He believes Flatiron will quickly become the astrophysical hub of the United States, if not the universe itself. Now, after a good deal of thought, it was decided that the 3rd unit would be computational quantum physics. This is more or less theoretical material science. It's highly computational, and it's very important. As leader, the man to get was Antoine Georges, right there, at Collège de France in Paris. We had seen him in action in a research collaboration we sponsor, and he was great. Antoine had also received his share of prizes, most recently being awarded the Légion d'honneur, I don't know if I pronounced that right, the Legion of Honor, France's most prestigious award. But getting him here was no easy matter. Beside the Collège de France, he had 2 other positions, and his wife, Sandrine, a distinguished historian, who I think is in the audience. Sandrine, are you around? Well, maybe she's hiding. In any event, Sandrine is a distinguished historian, and she needed a position here in New York. Happily, it finally worked out well. Antoine will spend 3/4 of his time with us, 1/4 with Collège de France, and Sandrine has a nice position at NYU. Today is Antoine's first day at work, and he's, well, I mean, you know, you have to start sometime. And he's already recruited 8 terrific people to join him. And underpinning the whole establishment is the Scientific Computing Core, which will support all the science units. Heading this effort are Nick Carriaro, formerly co-director of the High Performance Computing Facility at the Yale School of Medicine, and Ian Fisk, who headed all software and hardware for CMS, one of the 2 experiments at CERN which discovered the Higgs boson. Their team will grow to about 15 people, and the computer facility will grow to 45,000 cores, a pretty enormous installation. Now, Leslie, David, Antoine, and Ian will now take 3 minutes each to tell us what they're actually doing. So, Leslie.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to take less than 3 minutes. So, because I'm not going to actually describe what we do in any detail, I'm just going to tell you our mission. And the Center for Computational Biology's mission is really to develop theoretical models for understanding biological processes and methods that enable the analysis of the large complex data sets that are being generated by new experimental technologies. So there's really 2 sides of that focus. One is developing models, and the other is developing tools. And one of the critical opportunities, which Jim, I think, alluded to, that the Flatiron Institute has is that it provides a permanent home for professional scientists who are driven by that problem, the problem of developing and deploying and supporting state-of-the-art software. And that's very hard to find in typical academic environments. And in terms of the way that we want to interact with the world, we're trying to have impact through several mechanisms. One is that multiple scientific laboratories will use our software, and that's already started to happen. The second is that we will provide access to carefully curated data and to the visualization tools and analysis tools that get layered on that data. And the third thing is scientific training. So those are the three sort of foundations of I think all of the centers, but certainly for us. And we work with a number of institutions both in and out of state. So in state, we're developing strong ties with NYU, that's my home institution, with Columbia, with CUNY, with Stony Brook, with Brookhaven National Lab, with Cold Spring Harbor, with Rockefeller, with the New York Structural Biology Center, with the New York Genome Center, and with many of the medical centers like Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I'll stop there, and we'll see, that was 1 minute and 40 seconds. So we're ahead of schedule, and I'm very pleased to introduce David Sperber.
So this is an incredibly exciting time to be an astrophysicist. We've discovered that our solar system is but one of many. We've discovered thousands of planets around nearby stars. We've realized the atoms that make up our bodies are just a small fraction of the universe. Most of the universe is in the form of dark matter and dark energy, stuff that we don't know what it is. In the last year or so, we've seen for the first time black holes spiral in, merge, and produce gravitational waves. All of these discoveries build on computational analysis of data and theoretical modeling. And those are really the two themes of the Center for Computational Astrophysics, starting from initial conditions, the physics we understand, the physics we try to understand, evolve it forward in time, see what predictions we get. Take data, and we now have data where we're getting data from billions of stars, billions of positions of galaxies, and we need to develop new tools to analyze this data. Among the things we've been doing is taking tools coming from machine learning, coming from areas of computer science that are really blossoming, and here we're trying to bring a lot of these tools to the astrophysical data for the first time. And I think we're uniquely positioned to do this. I mean, one of my ambitions for the center is to make this the Center for Computational Astrophysics in the US and internationally. And for this, I think we have an unfair advantage. Hans Bethe, the great late physicist, said, only work on problems where you have an unfair advantage. Our unfair advantage is New York. This is an exciting place to be. It attracts some of the best minds in the world. And it's a place that we're surrounded by great universities, and we have the opportunity to partner with them. We've already made 3 cross appointments with Columbia, with cross appointments with NYU, Stony Brook, with Princeton. We've been developing cross appointment with Rutgers. We've been developing strong ties with a lot of the surrounding universities, working closely with CUNY. And I think this positions us to build on the strength of the region. We've been bringing together people who've not come together before, and bringing techniques people haven't used before, and what comes out of that is great discovery. And I hope we will become a very important place for computational astrophysics, and I believe Flatiron Institute as a whole will play a role in making New York a leading center for computational science. So now let me introduce Antoine Georges. This is Antoine's first day, and every day here Antoine is like this, you'll see.
Thank you, David. Well, it's my first day here, so please forgive me. I'm fresh out of the plane from Paris if I fall asleep during my own speech. I'll be leading the Center for Computational Physics here, or CCQ, and I'll have the pleasure to team up in this endeavor with Professor Andrew Millis from Columbia University, who is here in the audience. As I'm sure you know, the discovery of new materials and new materials functionalities are really crucial to both technological revolutions and key advances in civilization at large. The best example is perhaps the Silicon Age that we entered in the mid-20th century, and that basically triggered the digital revolution that we now live through. Also, many problems and challenges that we are facing in energy-related sciences are first and foremost materials issues. Materials properties are grounded in some fundamental principles which are seemingly very, very simple. Electrons in solids interact according to electrostatics and quantum mechanics, that extraordinary theory that revolutionized physics at the beginning of 20th century. However, computing, let alone predicting the properties of a complex molecule or a complex material, is a task which is dauntingly complex. And that's first and foremost because we have a very, very large number of particles in presence, thousands of billions of them. This was actually forcefully expressed by the great theoretical physicist and Nobel laureate Paul-Adrien Maurice Dirac, who back in 1929 said in essence that now we know quantum mechanics, all the basic principles of physics and chemistry are known, and the only thing we need to do is to solve these complex equations. But he added, it becomes desirable that approximate practical methods of applying quantum mechanics should be developed, which can lead to an explanation of the main features of complex atomic systems without too much computation. Well, this is a perfect mission statement for CCQ. We shall develop here the concepts, the theories, the algorithms and codes needed to push the boundary of computational quantum mechanics at large, of complex and strongly interacting systems. And with due respect to Dirac, we'll actually do this by using all the computation we can. The Flatiron as a whole offers a unique opportunity of gathering together scientists from different fields sharing a common interest in the applications of computations to science. It will be a focal point for computational sciences internationally, hosting a diversity of meetings, workshops, conference, visitor programs, and most importantly, we intend to develop synergies with many institutions of the New York area, Columbia University, New York University, the City University of New York, the State University of New York, Brookhaven, and so on. Simply stated, we hope to help making the New York area the place to be for computational sciences. And I now hold over the floor to Jan Fisk, who together with Nick Carriero is one of our computer.
Like most worthwhile endeavors, computational science is hard. Also hard is keeping the display behind me working. The mission of the Scientific Computing Core, which is led by Nick Carriero and me, is to remove the technical roadblocks so that the remarkable team of scientists that Marilyn and Jim have assembled can focus on the hard challenges of their science. We have a small but growing team of experts who provide the computing and software resources, both here at the Institute, but also at co-location facilities at Brookhaven National Lab and at the San Diego Supercomputer Center. We support all of the research endeavors of the Flatiron Institute. We provide hardware and software environments, tools for managing data, specialized systems, and high-performance, high-scale computing and storage. One of the challenging aspects of supporting this institute is the sheer volume of data and the kinds of technologies needed to realize the scientific potential. The hardware requirements, the software languages, the techniques tend to all be assigned to the local communities being worked on. Because of Jim's and Marilyn's extraordinary generosity and commitment, we're in the enviable position of being able to say yes a lot. It's a very good job. We can encourage people to look at more new technologies, to actually do more with more. The support of the Simons Foundation permits us as best we can to ensure that the research community is only limited by their imagination and their initiative and not by the computing resource requirements and the technology. We look forward over the next few years to increasing our group and our computing capacity. We look forward to continuing working with all members of the Flatiron Institute centers to face the challenges in their computational sciences, and we are grateful to have been given this opportunity to help establish the Flatiron Institute as a major research center. I'm early too. And I have no one to introduce. Oh, I'm gonna go. Okay.
We're almost there. So you heard a lot of science, a lot about science, and there's a lot we can do in various areas, but there's one area of science that we can't do, and that's political science. We can't do political science here. But that field, whose object is to learn how we can all live in harmony, is the most important science of all. Without getting it right, everything we do here could ultimately come to naught. So we have here with us today a man who is an expert in this field, highly skilled in bringing people together, helping to find common ground, and actually getting things done. I've followed his career with great admiration, and am pleased and proud to introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to be with Jim and Marilyn, and I'm very excited about today. What you say, you take very seriously when you talk about the quantification sciences, and when the MC said today 3 minutes per speaker, they meant 3 minutes per speaker. For those of you who couldn't notice, there was a young lady who was standing right here that was holding this up while people were speaking. So I am going to honor the best I can, but I also want the ability to control the time, you see. So I brought it actually with me. It's a great coincidence that I'm here today because I also studied computational sciences before I went into politics. Many people don't know that. Gravitational waves is my forte, obviously. And I'm still studying the effect of the black hole on the galaxy. The black hole has a different dimension now in the political science context. It's called Washington, but it's the same basic effect. I'm very excited about what you're doing here today. First, from an economic point of view for the city and the state. This is our need. This is where we need to grow and to flourish. You look at our economy, many of the sectors have been running and are current just by the energy of the private sector. Our financial community has changed and adopted, our insurance industry, the real estate industry. But the sciences are an area where the state has actually fallen behind other states. And there is no reason for it. The past 40 or 50 years, we've seen other states actually, and other regions, actually excel in areas where New York State was the capital, was the empire state. You look back at our history, many of the great scientific findings were done here. Tesla, alternating current, that was here, right? George Eastman, transparent photographic film, that was here. That became Kodak up in Rochester. Watson, the double helix at Cold Spring Harbor. So many of the great scientific findings were here. Many still are. Where New York State has not excelled is the commercialization and the application of those findings. And what you're doing here is exactly that. It's using science, but it's also applying it to solutions. And that is exactly what New York State needs. And it's not just what New York State needs, it's what the world needs. You know, on a broader plane, I'm worried about the world that we're leaving our kids. It's much more complex, the problems are much more difficult, and it's only getting worse. And many of the solutions, I believe, are going to lie in the work that you do. The medical solutions in the future are going to come from the sciences, I have no doubt. We have challenges that the environment is bringing us with extreme weather, which is now undeniable. You can argue about the cause, but you can't argue about the effect. Storms in places that never occurred before. In New York, we have hurricanes, typhoons. That never happened in the state of New York. You look at what's going on in Texas now, Puerto Rico, Florida. It's a global phenomenon. The security threats that we face, North Korea, I'm more parochial. I'm worried about terrorist attacks here at New York. We have a nuclear power plant, Indian Point, 20 miles away from Manhattan. Just run some scenarios. If the terrorists hadn't flown the plane into World Trade Centers, but had flown it into a nuclear facility, what could have happened to millions of people? So, real life problems that I believe you hold the key to solving. So besides the economic benefit, the ability to make the world a better place and to make life better, that's really the quote-unquote business that you are in, and I'm excited about that. I was also given strict instructions not to say anything nice about Jim and Marilyn, and that was repeated to me multiple times, but I really don't care. I have the microphone. I am governor of New York. And if they really don't like it, they can move to Jersey. I mean, that's, life is options, and those are yours. Jim and Marilyn are extraordinary. Why? The three keys. Brilliance, focus, and right intent. Brilliance, one of the most intimidating things I do is going to lunch with Jim, who really makes you feel intellectually inadequate. And he does it without trying to do it, which actually makes it worse. It really is a devastating effect to the ego. After I go to lunch with Jim, the next day I go teach a third grade class just to have some restoration of my intellectual capacity. So the brilliance is obvious. The focus, you look at what the Simons have done. He started out with a very specific goal. Marilyn started out with a very specific goal, and they have continued to progress, starting with attracting teachers to the STEM sciences, rewarding them, training them. It's now become Math for America, started here in New York, 600 teachers trained, making Stony Brook a world-class institution, which he has done, by the way, by changing the whole financial structure of the university system statewide, and then investing in Stony Brook, who is here today. And Stony Brook is not only extraordinary within the state, but extraordinary within the nation. And that is attributable in large part to the help of the Simons. Cold Spring Harbor, and we believe we can basically form a research triangle on Long Island, and Cold Spring Harbor could be a hub of that. The Genome Center that was Jim's baby and Marilyn's baby, I believe that will wind up revolutionizing medicine and saving lives. I believe that, and I believe it's just a matter of time. So that is all thanks to the acts of two individual people. And that's Jim and Marilyn, and let's give them a round of applause. And as I do respect the quantitative data set that I have been presented, all but a simple one, my last point is this. Life is very complicated, but at the end of the day, life is very simple. Every religion, every philosopher comes to one conclusion. Use your time on this planet, use your time on this earth to leave the place a better place. Take the talents that God gave you and find out how to help people and how to improve their condition and how to improve society. Every religion. Judaism calls it tikkun olam, reach across the breach. Catholicism is Matthew 25. Protestants talk about perfect love. Humanists, ethical humanists, you have a human responsibility to your brothers and sisters who are here in mankind. That's really what you're doing here. And that's what Jim and Marilyn have done extraordinarily well. And that, at the end of the day, is everything, and should give you a warm feeling when you put your head on the pillow tonight, because there is nothing more important than knowing you're doing the right thing and you are in the right place and you're using your talents to help people. And each and every one of you are. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Everyone? You can hear me, right? Okay. Everyone, obviously now we are doing the ribbon cutting. Hello. Shh. Okay. Dear people, we are doing the ribbon cutting, obviously, a momentous thing. And when it is over, this will be the end of the formal festivities. Everyone is free to go to the working floors, which are floors 8, 7, and 6. Here we go.
How many scientists does it take to cut a ribbon?
1, 2, 3.